Hey friends, we are here at the homestead garden. It is a beautiful day. The heat wave has finally broke. We had rain all day yesterday and I have some exciting things planned. So first, we gotta get in the garden and turn off the electric fence. So you'll see we've got a bunch of logs here. These are our old shiitake logs. They're probably some of them actually might be 5 years old, between 3 and 5 years old. And they are logs that I inoculated with shiitake spore that eventually produced mushrooms for us. It's one of my favorite things to do is to grow shiitake mushrooms. But eventually the logs just kind of stop. And so these logs are going to have a new purpose today in the homestead garden. So we've got our work cut out today. I want to give you a tour of the garden, kind of show you where we are as we enter into the fall months. But I also need to get all these logs in. I got a bunch of dirt in the back of my car. I've got some plants, some fall plants we got to get in the ground. So all kinds of good things today. I just noticed something has gotten into my garden. I think it's a bunny because I had seen the bunny outside the garden and he was chomping on my green beans for the last month. And that's because the electric fence just wasn't very hot. It wasn't charged high because I had a lot of greenery. But I have since been putting cardboard all around under it, doing the weed whacking, keeping the greenery away, and I have a tester for the fence and it's pretty hot right now. And yet I had 4 cabbage starts that I had done from seed. It was this brand new cabbage from Baker Creek. Huge cabbage. It was like marketed as the largest cabbage. And he ate them. It's gonna be hard for you to see, but there were 4 planted here. Where is it? Here's one stem, and then I see another stem right here. And so he came in and literally ate my cabbages. Whew, very frustrated at that. I have more cabbages I was going to plant today, but let me tell you, I don't even know where I want to put them now because of him, and I don't know where he's getting in. I've got to figure that out too. All right, well, one thing at a time. I'll do a tour of the garden at some point, but I gotta get these mushroom logs up here because we have a new addition to the garden. So this is our new raised bed. This is an Olle, O-L-L-E. I will link it down below, the exact one I purchased, but it's a different, like, configurable garden bed, and I got the kind of like the sage garden green color. It was actually fairly easy to put together. We received it at this point probably 2 months ago, but I just hadn't had the time to get it together and get out here. Finally doing that, and I'm so grateful. But I started to kind of put it together at home. I unpackaged it. I think the longest part was actually peeling off some of that protective coating. There's a film on all of the pieces, and my daughter helped me and we got all of that off. And then I took some of the pieces in the configuration that I wanted. I knew I wanted this really long, skinnier type rectangle. It's about 2.5 feet wide and 12 feet long. And so I took some of the pieces that I knew how the configuration had to be and started the bolts and nuts together, not tightening, just hand tightening and kind of getting it done. And then I brought everything out here and started to assemble it. It took me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, just by myself. Assembled everything, got everything hand tightened and in place. And then I went back with a wrench on one side and the drill with the correct screw bit in it on the other, and made sure every bolt was tight and ready to go. In the bottom here, I have really heavy duty cardboard. It's about 4 layers thick to really keep from any weeds coming up. So what we're going to do is put our mushroom logs in here. We're just going to stack them in one level, and where I need to, stack them in two, and then fill in with the dirt. So by putting the decaying mushroom logs in there, this is called Mound Culture. This is a German word, which literally means mounded bed or mound culture, and it is a permaculture practice. I'm kind of reading this so I can say this right to you guys, but it actually is a technique that helps improve soil fertility, water retention, soil warming, and all of these things benefit the plants grown. So people do this in literal mounds. They'll just have maybe wood chips or logs, debris, right, covered in the dirt, and then plant things in the dirt. It's the same practice here with us putting our logs in, filling with dirt, and then putting our plants directly in there. It just helps with the soil fertility, aids with the plant nutrients, and gives us a really good use for those logs other than them just sitting and decaying, or even firewood. This is better in my opinion. All right, it's filled. However, it's pretty obvious I do need more dirt. So now I'm going to plant what I can. Even though I do need more dirt, I've got to get these things in the ground. I've got broccoli, cauliflower, some more cabbage, and beets that I started, and I'm going to kind of put the beets probably in between the bigger things. I'm going to try to strategically plant them around the logs. So since I don't have enough soil to really go above the logs, I'm going to try to do them around. I am so happy that is done, and much to my surprise, I was able to get in 12 cauliflower, 12 broccoli, I don't even know how many beets, and then 4 cabbage. Surely there'll be a little overcrowding at some point. I'll deal with it when it comes. Right now, I'm just so excited this is done. This was a big part of the fall garden were these crops. Granted, I need to go home and start some more of those large cabbages, but all in all, I'm really happy. And I'm so excited to have this garden bed. I actually just think it's so pretty. It adds just another level of like texture and contrast to the garden. And, you know, clearly when we've got a lot of these marigolds out, we'll have hopefully a lot more room to move. And if I need to next spring, I can always move the tomato trellising over more that way to make more room to walk through. But I'm really excited about this. I'm really happy to have this here. So again, I'll link it down below. There were 4 or 5 different configurations you could choose. You didn't have to do this long rectangle. You could do a more wider rectangle. You could do a U shape. There were a couple of different options. So I'll link it below so you can check it out for yourself. It's time to do a garden tour. Let me give you an update on a lot of things. While we are right here with our makeshift rain barrel, let me tell you about that. All in all, would I make this again? Yes. I feel like the construction of it worked fairly well. Now there was a little bit of cracking, or is a little bit of cracking, I should say, here on the lid and on the other lid too. But overall, this design has worked fairly well. The flaw that I have is the spigot. The spigot is too high in the bucket and it needs to be lower. So if I were to do it again, I would absolutely put that spigot lower. The other thing that was just kind of like a this year is we just didn't have a lot of rain. Even now, it's only full. See, every time I move this lid, it cracks. Even now, it's maybe a third full, maybe a little more than a third. It's never gotten, I would say it's never even gotten half full. And I attribute that to two things. Number one, just not enough rain. I had to bring and haul out between 20 to 25 gallons of water at least twice a week this entire summer. I don't expect to have to do as much this fall, but I'll still probably have to haul water at least once a week, depending upon the rain. The other factor in that is that there's no rain catchment, right? When you think about a rain barrel tied to your gutters, all of that water is being caught and directed right into that barrel. Whereas right here, I am just praying that a lot of rain falls right here. So that's the other flaw in this system. But in a pinch, this has helped. And I have had to use, I have two of them. I've got another one right down there. I don't know if you can see that through the tunnel, but I have had to use both of them. They have worked great. The flow of the water, as long as the water is above the spigot, the flow of the water is perfect. I've had to tip the barrels a couple of times just to get the water, but overall, they have been a lifesaver. Another lifesaver in this garden, there's a bug on the camera, has been the Premier One electric fence. There's a couple of little bugs all over here. The Premier One electric fence, with the exception of this one bunny, who I gotta figure out how he's getting in, has really saved, because we have a lot of deer out here. Sometimes that I'm here in the garden, I can hear them in the woods behind me, doing their snuff and walking and whatnot. So the fact that this garden has not been decimated by animals, I praise that to the Premier One electric fence. This is my second year using it, I think. Best investment for the garden, truly. I love it. It's easy to use, it's effective. I think that's easy to use and effective. That's all I need. Now, there was one instance a few weeks ago where remember I had mentioned my fence was not hot enough because of all of the greenery touching it, the weeds basically. A deer did come in, and I think he just like reached his neck over and he chomped down this pepper plant. Now, it has since come back. It's been growing back, thank goodness. But I remember when I came in the garden and I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm playing with fire. I need to get this fence fixed and get all the weeds. So that's why I did a little dumpster diving, got all that cardboard, and did a lot of weed whacking, and I just need to keep up with it. But the fence has been a huge saving grace for us this year. So if you remember, this is where all of our tomatoes, some tomatillos were, just all along this trellising system. And the trellising system has been great. I just tore all of my tomatoes out 2 weeks ago, I think, either 1 or 2 weeks ago. It's been fairly recent. And I guess it was September 1st. I think it actually was September 1st I did it. Just all of a sudden I was like, you know what, they gotta go. And I'm so glad I did. I pulled all the tomatoes, all the tomatillos, and all of the green beans. And I really am glad I did. It's one less thing I gotta worry about with watering. And it just makes the garden look that much cleaner right now for the fall. So the tomatoes are gonna go here again next year, but I am considering putting some garlic and whatnot just kind of interspersed along here just to help with the soil for the tomatoes next year. Okay, so let's do the garden tour. This area is mostly peppers. So I've got the Thai chili. I've got a couple of Thai chili plants right here. Now the peppers are just starting to come in. And you can see some of the peppers here. We've got one that's just starting to turn up here. So this was a Thai chili pepper. I've got another couple here. This plant is the same, but for some reason is totally stunted. It just hasn't gotten tall. These are bell peppers, looking fairly okay with the exception of a couple here. I believe this is blossom end rot. And what that means, and this one's got it too, they need more calcium. When your peppers or tomatoes start to have this kind of scab on them, that basically means that the plant needs more calcium. So the bell peppers are doing fairly well. but I need to amend the soil here. This is one of my Ajvarsky plants. I believe I have 4 or 5 of them, and this is definitely the most beautiful and productive. The peppers are still fairly green, but they're big and they're beautiful. I mean, look at the size of this one here. Size of my hand. These are our favorite peppers to grow. Some of them are starting to turn, like this one. As you know now, we've got our fall and winter crops here. The basil is just kicking butt. It looks so good. I've been harvesting what I can and just putting bouquets around the house of fresh basil. This is lemongrass. I actually have 3 lemongrass. The other one is that one right there, huge, and then there's another smaller one over there. But the lemongrass is fantastic for actually keeping mosquitoes away, but it's also really good if you like to cook Thai food. So this was our squash trellis. I had a lot of winter squash growing here over the summer. Most of those plants have died out, with the exception of a few. Like here's a gorgeous butternut that's growing, and there's another one down here. So this is our butternut squash, and then the rest of these are different machada varieties. I've talked about machada varieties if you followed along with the channel in the previous years. It's M-O-C-H-A-T-A or M-O-S-C-H-A-T-A. And basically the machada varieties, they kind of, a lot of them have this variegation on the leaves. They have a lot more resistance to the vine borer and squash bugs. And I think it might have been last year, that was all I grew was machada varieties and had wonderful success. This year I branched out and went beyond the machada, and then this fall, that's all I'm doing. So there are different types of winter squashes, but this side of the trellis is all machada winter squash varieties. The other side, go in here, is very sparse, but these are black beans. I had some Cherokee Trail of Tears black bean seeds from Baker Creek, and so not all of them germinated. We've got one plant here and then a few down there, but I've never grown black bean seeds before, or black beans, and I am excited to try it and just see how it goes. So that was kind of an experiment here on this side. Oh my gosh, I have our first pods. I just saw that. Look at these. Look at that, there's another one here. We have our first black bean pods. I did not even see those before. That means there's probably some down there too. Here's that other lemongrass. So beautiful. Our sunflowers are still hanging on. We've got 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11. 11 giant sunflowers growing here in the garden. I don't grow them really just except for their beauty and the birds. I have found that attracting the birds to the garden this year has been extremely beneficial, because I think they have eaten most of the hornworms, because there were times on the tomatoes and the tomatillos where I easily had seen hornworm damage, even on my husband's garden, which we'll do an update on that in a minute. I think the birds got them, and so I never really tried to attract birds to the garden before, but I think this was just like a accident, a happy accident, and something I will try to do this going forward. I also have a bunch of comfrey. So here's one, I've got another one up there, and I've got a little one here. The comfrey plants are fantastic nitrogen building plants, and so I actually will often cut them. You can see I just did it on that one. I will just tear the leaves off, cut the leaves off, and throw them into my fruit trees, the pots that the fruit trees are in, because they're just really good fertilizer and really good for fruit trees. So that's why they're here. I will often just cut these down really to a stub and throw them in, and they grow back like miracles. They're so hardy. So on the fruit trees, someone actually had asked about this, I think, on my last fruit tree video. These are all fruit trees that I had purchased from Stark Brothers. You can see they are all in these really big pots. And the reason is because we really want to have an orchard, but it's all woods right now. And we just haven't been able to find the time, but more importantly, the funds to have those woods cleared a bit so we can get these fruit trees in the ground. Now, this is something I was just talking to my husband about a couple of days ago. We're gonna see if it's something we can try to do this fall, winter, so I can get these trees in the ground. They're okay, but they really need to get in the ground. They've been in these pots much longer than I anticipated and had hoped for. Lemon balm, I love just cutting this all the way down and either freeze drying or dehydrating it for tea this winter. These are our cucumber plants. These are only 2 cucumber plants, and you can see we actually have got one here and one here ready to be picked. They are looking a little rough. They have done their job though, and they have been fantastic this whole summer and this whole season. As you know, we have been inundated with cucumbers. So I'm very grateful to them, but they're not gonna last too much longer. I might give them another week or two and see, because I can see other more baby cucumbers coming, and I'll just let them go, but their life will be coming to an end soon. We also have another basil plant here, which looks fantastic. I've never had so much beautiful basil. So under the trellising system, all that's really here are the marigolds right now that I had planted interspersed with the tomatoes. But I do have some eggplants. So there's one there, which is producing some fruit. And then some more here. These are more eggplants. The eggplants have been great. As you probably saw within the Every Bit Counts challenge, I was able to bread and bake some, so we can have some eggplant parmesan later this winter. For the rest of them, I may try that, and I may just kind of cook as is. But the eggplants have been better than they have in previous years, but still not great. And then lastly, we actually have some more peppers. These are all different varieties of peppers. These are supposed to be, I think, all sweet peppers. You can see a bell pepper there on the ground. That one fell down because I think it had blossom end rot again. And so again, I need to start amending my soil, certainly for next year too. These are all herbs back here. We've got chives, echinacea, oregano, African blue basil is the big one, and then next to that is some parsley. The parsley I am hoping to keep alive all fall and winter. I may actually take that out of a pot and put it in the ground. Parsley is technically a biennial, but here in Zone 7B, I may be able to keep it alive all winter long. I'm gonna try. I've been cutting that and freeze drying all of our parsley too. This big boy is amazing and is constantly surprising me. So this is a zucchini plant that I started from seed earlier, obviously, in the year, and it is huge. You can kind of see the stem. I mean, it's so big. And we still have zucchini coming on this side and on this side. I'm probably gonna let those get a little bit bigger and then I'll pick them in a couple of days. But this zucchini plant has produced like no other zucchini plant I have ever had in my life. I say that and now I see a squash bug. We gotta get him. Can you see him? He's big. Ugh, smush him. They gotta go. So I have absolutely flicked off and killed a lot of squash bugs, a lot of larvae and the baby eggs that have hatched. The eggs themselves, kind of gotten them off the leaves, but this plant is a trooper. It has survived so much, and I'm just gonna let it go until I know it can't go anymore. Okay, there's actually another plant I wanted to show you, and that's this beauty. This is Marshmallow. I grew this from seed. I guess it was maybe in January or February. I started this from seed, and I'm so proud of it. The point of this plant is it's an herbal medicinal plant, digestive, respiratory, and skin conditions. But yeah, mainly the root, and you can do it in capsule, tincture, or tea form. It's also in cough syrups. So I'm excited to have that. I am really trying a couple of things I'm really trying this year, and that is to grow a lot of our own medicinal herbs so that I can always have the plants at the ready when I need them, and to also dry as many herbs, whether it be through dehydration or freeze drying a lot of our herbs, whether it be medicinal or culinary, for ourselves. I'm trying to rely less on purchasing those types of things and more on growing. So at home in our backyard, I have so many seeds already started, both culinary herbs as well as medicinal herbs, because that is something I'm really excited to dive into. I think that does it for this garden, so let's head up to my husband's garden. Okay, that fence is now electrified and closed up. So we head up here to my husband's garden, and I've said this before, but I feel like I need to say it again because someone surely will not have any of the past videos and posts to understand. This is our family garden. I mainly take care of that one. He was supposed to take care of this one. But they're both family gardens. Okay, just gonna, ooh, look at this guy. Oh yeah, look at that one. But this is the garden. So just take a gander. By the way, this is exactly what my garden looked like last year. And that is because the weeds are just on a different level. I mean, this is my second year gardening here, and my first year really going hard with the cardboard and the wood chips and trying to stay on top of it. He came in with wood chips and did the same, but he hasn't stayed on top of it. And there's only so much, you know, a person can do. So the garden has been producing really well. You can still see there are good looking tomatoes growing in there. It's mostly tomatoes. There's a couple of eggplants. In fact, I do see a monster cucumber growing. It's like overgrown. But it's mostly tomato plants. And I have not torn these out because, well, it's not necessarily my garden. I did want him to have the say on when they get taken out. And we're just kind of letting these tomatoes grow as big as possible, and if they don't turn, that's okay. But before these get pulled, I will get all of the tomatoes. But it has produced, even like last year for me. Regardless of the weeds, it has produced. Now, I think he will probably be more mindful about the weeds next time. I know for me it made a world of difference, not just in actually taking care of the garden, but the pleasing effect, right? The aesthetic, the visual effect of being able to go in, walk around, and just see the beauty and not the weeds. There's actually two very overgrown cucumbers. Huge. Two more to take home. I think these may be freeze dried. Thanks for joining me today. This was really nice. After doing a month of videos in the kitchen for the Every Bit Counts challenge, it's been really nice to come out to the garden today, appreciate the beauty, share it with you, and kind of get the garden planted for the fall, and just give you an update on how things are going. So I wish you a very blessed and wonderful day. Stay healthy, stay well. Bye-bye.